Hello, welcome to this tutorial. I'm going to show you how to collect an IR spectrum in the analytical unit. When you come into the lab, you need to be wearing your lab coat fully done up and have your safety glasses on and over your eyes. All of the lab scripts contain COSH and risk assessment information, and you need to have read these before you start working. So if we start off with the instrument, so when you come to run an IR, make sure the instrument is turned on. You can tell that because the light is on there. You also need to make sure that the diamond and the stage is clean. If it looks clean, it's always really good practice to clean it before you start. By the IR, there always should be some tissue and some IPA. Right, only use isopropanol. It should be in a blue squeezy bottle that's labelled. So you put a little bit on and wipe the stage and then wipe both sides. And then you can either dry it or it will evaporate really quickly. And then we come to the screen. So it's turned on, it should be green. If it's not, ask me, ask the demonstrator, ask one of the technicians. So the first thing we do is we do a background scan. So you just need to click on background scan, and it says please prepare the sample compartment for a background scan. That just means it's clean, which I've done. Then you click OK, and it will run however many background scans. The background scan, when it's running, always looks a bit weird because it's measuring the air above. So we're using ATR, which is attenuated total reflection, and you have your sample or the background on the stage where there's a diamond, and the IR beam comes up and down and just takes what's in contact with it. So at the moment it's just doing the air, so it looks a little bit weird, but that is what it should look like. The background scan's been run, so now it's time to run a sample. There's two reasons you'll be running an IR sample. Either I've given you an unknown and you've got to try and work out what it is, or you've made something and you want to prove the structure. There's two types of sample you can run. You can run a liquid or a solid. I'm going to show you how to do both. So I'm going to start with the liquid. Okay. So when you put a liquid on, you don't want to put too much on. You want to put enough so that you're covering the stage. When you've got your sample on, come to the program and press sample scan, and it will collect your sample. And you can see the spectrum as it's running show on the screen. With a liquid sample, get a little bit of tissue, dry your sample off, and then get some IPA, spray it on, either on or on some tissue, and wipe the stage again to check it's clean. And you can either dry it with a bit of tissue or let it evaporate. I'm going to run sample B next. Sample B is a solid. So I'm going to get a micro spatula and put a little bit of the sample on. You don't need to put a lot of the sample on, you just need enough to cover the diamond and the stage. Don't put a great big spatula on. Then you need to move the knob over, screw it down. It doesn't over tighten, so it self stops, and that will make your sample in full contact with the diamond. And now it's just measure scan again. The sample of this unknown has run, so now I'm going to peak pick it because you want to identify what the peaks are. So to do this, you go to view and then peak pick. When you open peak picking, on the right hand side you've got a menu, and on this you've got some settings to get your peak picking. So go with what it's got first and press calc, and it may peak pick everything. it might not. In this case, it hasn't, and there are a few peaks that I'd like to peak pick. So there's a couple of things you can do. You can change the noise threshold. So I changed the noise level and it's not made it any better. It's labelled more peaks, but it's not labelled the peaks I want. So I'm going to put the noise level back, and the other thing you can do is you can go add peak. And if you go add peak and you get the crosshairs where you want, it will peak pick that peak. So you click, and then if you want to add all of them, it will do it. There's 3 peaks I want to add. You need to add them individually, and you put the crosshairs on where the peak is, and then you press OK. Now it's peak picked, you want to save it. So to do this, you go to print and make sure it's saying Microsoft Print to PDF. Press OK, and then it should be saving in the file directory for your module. Put a file name in, so this was my sample B, so I'm just calling it B. You might want to put the sample name, you might want to put your name or initials, and then press save. And this will save it as a PDF. So if I just go in, you can see, and this will give you your peak pick spectrum and the table with all the information in. And now it's run, the most important thing you need to do before you finish is clean. So to do this, you undo the knob that lifts that up, and then you need to get a little bit of tissue again, put some IPA on it, and clean the bottom of the knob so there's none of your sample on, and clean the stage so all of your sample is off. And you need to do this until it looks clean, and then leave it for the next person's spectrum to be run. Thanks for watching, and if you've any questions, send me an email.